Well, everything is out of the greenhouse and into the garden. In Southern Oregon here, Zone 7B, I don't plant anything through the first 3 weeks of May. In other words, there's still a potential for getting a frost before that. So starting the fourth week, which is like 21st, 22nd, that's when all the heat lovers go out, like the tomatoes and peppers and eggplant. So they went out, all of them got finished today, and so they're all planted. Now I'm in the north garden here, where the greenhouse is. I planted 52 varieties of tomato. So I've got 9 beds, the ones that are like 4 feet by 16, and some are 12 feet. And so I don't have enough room because I need to keep them spaced far apart. So what I've done is I've got some alternate methods of planting. Now, I've never really discussed container planting for tomatoes because I've always just shown them in the beds. But I do have other methods of growing. Now, at one time, I did plant the dwarf tomato project in 5-gallon buckets, and they were okay. They turned out, they weren't the greatest. They needed more room. At the end of the season, when I dumped them out, the roots were just balled up. I mean, it was just completely congested. So they were root bound. They did okay as far as production, but they could have done better. So, and they were all determinants. Now, let me explain what that means. Now, there's two kinds of tomato. And while there's variations of it, but it's pretty much determinate and indeterminate. I mean, there are semi-determinate and whatnot, but I'm just focusing on the two main types, and that's determinate and indeterminate. A determinate tomato means that it grows to a certain size, it'll put out most of its fruit within just a few weeks, and then it's done. It'll die and it's done. It won't produce anymore. So it's kind of it's determined as far as genetics how high, how tall it's going to get and how much it's going to produce. Now, an indeterminate, on the other hand, will just keep on growing. It'll put out, once it starts putting flowers out, it'll keep producing tomatoes all through the season until the end of the season when something will kill it off, like usually frost or late blight or something like that. But it'll keep producing tomatoes throughout the season. Now, the reason you might want to grow determinates is because they take up less space and they put all their fruit at one time. So if you want to make sauces and whatnot, that's the way to do it. With the indeterminate, you go out, you pick a few, and you just keep picking a few every few days. And then, to make a sauce, you just got to keep collecting them, and it's just more painstaking that way. But now the indeterminates, they'll get tall. They'll get 6, 7, 8, 9 feet tall even. So when you're growing those types, two different types, it takes different methods. Of course, the determinants, being smaller, can be grown in a smaller area. But I have found that in past experience, even trying to grow the determinants in 5-gallon buckets, I haven't had the greatest luck. I mean, yeah, you'll look online where people are doing it and they grow and they're okay and they do fairly well, but when you dump them out, they're just completely root bound. So that's just saying that they would do so much better if they were in a bigger container. Now, in my grow beds, of course, I put both the determinants and the indeterminates in there because they're 27 inches tall, which gives them plenty of root depth. But they can just grow, the roots can just grow as wide as they want and just keep on growing and take up as much space as they want. But when we're talking about pots, it's a little different. And in my experience, I've found that for a determinate tomato, the ideal size is about 20 gallons. So that would be 4 times the size of a 5-gallon bucket. And an indeterminate likes about 30 gallons. And so I've actually built some boxes before that were 30 gallons and 20 gallons, and they worked really well in there. The drawback, of course, is that wood will rot over time. So I've come up with a different solution that I've been using for a few years, and it's worked really well. So let me show you that. Okay, so first here I have the indeterminates. And these are growing in 30-gallon galvanized trash cans. And these do really well. They're 30 gallons. They're about 26 inches tall or so. They're at least 2 feet, I know that. And they're about 20 inches across. And they do really well in these. This is a Buffalo Heart Giant. And this is going to get like 7 feet tall or so. It would get taller, but I don't let them get that tall because they just become unmanageable. In fact, That's a mega bloom right there. And then, yeah, right along here, I've got 4 of them across the fence here, and they're a little over 6 feet apart. Now, the reason why they're 6 feet apart is because I save the seeds for my website. Now, that's a little bit close, so what I do is I bag the blossoms, and then I let them set fruit. I bag them before they open up, let them set fruit, take the bags off, and then I label them, and then let them grow, and then I save the seeds. But down here I've got, now this one here, I've bagged the whole thing. This is a potato leaf, and I'm just bagging the whole thing because they're a little more susceptible to cross-pollination. And then down here this is Noah's grape. But these are the 30-gallon galvanized, and they work really well. This is the 3rd year that I've been using these, and I'm just thoroughly impressed with the way that the tomatoes grow in here. And now here I have 2 determinate tomatoes, and these are 20-gallon galvanized trash cans. Now this is my first year of growing in the 20-gallon. I usually have plenty of room for my determinates, but this year I've just grown. I've planted like 50-some tomatoes, and so I didn't have enough room. So these are spaced about 6 feet apart also, and I will bag these as they start setting blossoms. So here's an alternative to the galvanized garbage cans. These are 20 gallons. Now I've taken 12 pieces of 2x6 that are 20 inches long, and I've just nailed them all together, screwed them all together, and then I just put some 2x2s in the corner to screw them to. And this works out to about 20 gallons. So this is going to be the same as one of those 20-gallon galvanized garbage cans, but the only difference is these are a little bit wider inside. And so, yeah, the widest part here is 20 inches across, and then it's a little less than that here. And then I screwed some 2x2s on the side here, and what that allows me to do is to run a string across the top, and then I can tie up the plants this way. So this is a good alternative. If you wanted to use 2x4s, you could just put more, instead of just 3 of them, you can put like 4 or something like that, 4 high, and this will give you your 20 gallons. So this is an alternative, and I have a bunch of these. I've got like 10 of these also in there. But the disadvantage to these is they do rot out. So after 3 or 4 years, they're starting to come apart. They're starting to crack. These here are 3 years old, and they're just now starting to crack. They're going to hold up for probably a few more years. But you know, honestly, if you go out and buy 2x6s, it's not much cheaper than just using the galvanized garbage cans. But they will work if you don't want to use the galvanized. Now, you're probably thinking it's not really advantageous or cost effective to do that. Well, it actually really is. These were about 25 bucks or 27 bucks, something like that. Now, the last time I was at the grocery store, organic tomatoes were like $2 and something, $2.25 I think $2.25 a pound. But even if they were like $2 a pound, you can potentially get 40-50 pounds out of one tomato plant, and so that's $100 right there worth of tomatoes. And so you're saving, you know, I don't know how much you're saving, but do the math in your head, and you're potentially saving a lot of money. And then the following year, it's all gravy because it's paid for. So the cans will definitely pay for themselves in one summer. So I'm not concerned about the cost. I mean, up front, it's a hit. But if, you know, I buy a few of them, and then the following year buy a few more, so it's not a big hit. But anyways, it's cost effective in the long run. And then you're probably thinking, well, what about the galvanized? Okay, well, here's the deal. These beds are galvanized, and I've had a lot of people, they've actually commented, and they were kind of a little frosted that I'm using galvanized. But I look at it this way. Galvanized, we've been having for decades, people have been using galvanized piping for bringing water in their home, and they've never questioned it. They never said anything about it. And then the thing, well, actually, it's funny because some of the people who have said they don't want galvanized pipe bringing water in the house, so they'll switch out and use PVC. You know, they use plastic. So I don't know. You know, it's kind of one of these things where, I'm not a scientist or anything. In my personal opinion, I don't think this galvanized leaks anything into the into the soil that isn't kind of natural anyways. What does it leak? Not nickel or zinc or something like that. But that's a natural element. And I don't think the plants take it up. And I'm not going to worry about it because we've been drinking out of galvanized pipes for decades and decades, and nobody's complained about it. And, you know, I don't think anybody's getting, you know, sick from galvanized piping. I don't know, maybe they are, but definitely water's not running through these. And so if you're worried about, you know, using these as you know, as grow pots, I mean, you're not drinking the water out of this. That's what we used to do. So I mean, I don't see the difference. I don't see the problem. And so I'm not concerned. I'm like concerned like 0% in using these for growing tomatoes. So that's my take on it. You know, other people may have opinions, and I'm sure that right now people are doing this right now on the comment section. I just know that they are, but that's okay. I'm not worried about it. So anyways, that's how I'm able to fit 52 varieties of tomato in this, what's it, about 2,000 square foot north garden. And that's all I can plant in this garden. And then of course I can put more of these into the orchard down there, which is, the orchard is about 4,000 square feet. So I've got plenty of room. But down in the orchard I can actually grow in the ground because this here is hard pan. This is like decomposed granite. And so I can't grow in the ground right here. But in the orchard, that's all natural forest that just pulled trees out of there and created the orchards. So anyways, I'll let you know as the summer progresses how well they're doing. I'll just show you. I didn't show you last year, and I should have done that. But this year I'm going to show you how well they do, and they grow like gangbusters. Also, I'm going to show you too, people have been asking about the suckers and do I prune and whatnot. And yes, some of them I do. I'll show you that, how I tie them up also when they're in these buckets. I have a couple methods that I use to tie these up. But that'll be another one as they start getting bigger. Right now they're not very tall, so they're just barely, I mean, I just planted them in here. So now also you're probably wondering about those 5-gallon buckets. You probably saw them over there where I've got the pepper plants and they're bagged. And the peppers seem to do really well in those. When I dump the peppers out at the end of the season, yeah, there is quite a root ball in it, but it's not root bound. It's not like so congested that they hit the walls of the, you know, of the pot and then start, you know, moving in a big circle. So they seem to do okay. I think the 5-gallon is good for the peppers. So far they've worked okay for me. But of course they would definitely do better in a 20-gallon, I think, but they're doing well enough for me. So anyways, I'm rambling. That's it so far. Season's just begun. Everything's in the garden now because we're past our 3rd week in May, and then I'll be doing more videos as the summer progresses. All right, thanks a lot for watching, guys, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so you get notifications. Okay, we'll catch you guys later.